yeah, with these tips for trying to conceive, like, you should get pregnant, especially the final one that we're going to talk about.
No, but we're not making promises.
I'm
just
saying
giving
usually,
yeah.
Right. And usually, no, we're not making promises. Yeah. This is not medical advice.
We're just telling you what we did and what we know, not...
Yes.
This ain't no contract, no. We just let you know. So,
Tony's not trying to get sued.
Nope. This is not medical advice. This is not sponsored.
Welcome to Season 1 of the Nursery Room podcast, where we talk about our journey of infertility with the goal of helping to facilitate healing, hope, and to help others to not suffer in silence.
Welcome.
Welcome.
My name is Tony.
And my name is Emily, and this is the Nursery Room podcast.
Yes. So, again, welcome back. This is the second episode. And what is cool is since the first episode came out, we have already heard from people who have been encouraged.
Yeah.
On YouTube, we've seen in the comments where people are being really encouraging towards us.
Yeah.
And also, I've seen somebody even just sharing their own story. And we want to encourage that because that is why we're doing this, is to create conversations around a topic that is hard to talk about and something that really holds people bondage. It tears marriages apart and really just tears lives apart. So we are doing this to bring awareness, and something we were even talking about with that is we want to bring awareness and not shame. Yeah. So if you are pregnant, if you have kids, if you're already a mom, a dad, you should not feel any shame by listening to this. That is something to be celebrated. And we have friends, family that we celebrate with, and we know other people going through infertility who celebrate those things. So that is not what this is about. What it is about is bringing awareness to a topic that is very present in our society. And it is something that people have a hard time talking about. It's something that people really just don't know where to start. So we're trying to start some of those conversations. Yeah. Even if it helps one or two people, I think that means that it's successful. And even if it doesn't, it's been helpful to us.
Yeah, it has definitely been helpful to us. But yeah, just encouraging people to talk about their stories. Again, I know I said this before, but like even for men to kind of start to have conversations, but also a reminder that you are not alone. There are a lot of people going through infertility. Yeah. And sometimes you don't even realize it. Like maybe they've adopted kids and you didn't know that they were adopted, or maybe they have done IVF and you didn't know that. So there could be years that people were, suffering in silence and alone. So it's really an opportunity to bring this conversation to the table. And if you're not going through it, maybe you can learn something and share with others. So
yeah, and that's a good point about learning something. I think for myself, there are certain topics and people that I have come across over the years dealing with certain things, or just in a specific demographic in our society that I wasn't aware about. But because I had those people in my life, and because I had conversations with those people, and I became educated about certain things, I'm able to care for them in a more loving, caring way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing that can happen with this. If you are not experiencing infertility, you may come across somebody. It may be somebody in your family, like I said, somebody you work with. You may have a new set of eyes into maybe what they might be dealing with, and it can help you to really just love them well. And not just how you want to love them, but love them well based off of your knowledge and your relationship with them. So getting into this episode is us going and, well, first of all, in the last episode, we kind of gave a general overview. I think we went into detail about some things we didn't. But in this episode specifically, we want to talk about just the time frame where we were trying. trying to conceive. And the reason why we wanted to talk about that is we think that it is a very hard time for families and just a vulnerable place for families to be. And in conversation, we realized that it is a tough subject, but there's a lot of correlation with other things in life that don't have anything to do with fertility. And you just think about, you get in the middle school, and from that time, you may already be thinking about what it's going to look like the day that you graduate and you walk across the stage and your family's there and they're celebrating you. You get to high school, you're thinking about the same thing, and you're thinking about the college that you want to get into, that you have to get into. And the next 4 years is going to be focused on, let me get into this school. If it's not college, you want to get into the workforce, and maybe you're falling out there, somebody else in your family, you want to go into the service, whatever it may be. You further down the road, you talk about, I want to get married and I want to have this kind of house. I want to have this many kids. And the thing that's in common with those is things that are farther down the road. So there's a lot of time for those goals that you have to really just build up a lot of emotions, to build up a lot of drive for those things. And I think what happens is, instead of just creating goals to work toward, we start creating idols to worship. So what happens is we get to those moments in life where things don't work out. And what happens is we get crushed because the gods that we created can't hold the weight that we put on them.
Yeah.
So
that's hard.
When it comes to infertility, I think even in the last episode, little kids think about what it looks like to be parents. So for all these years, you've thought about, I'm going to be a mom, I'm going to be a dad, I'm going to do this and that. And then you get to that moment and it doesn't happen.
Yeah. It's almost like that final, big milestone.
Yes.
Most people, maybe not everyone, desire that from childhood. And then it's kind of like the final big thing, the school, the marriage, all the things, and then children. So it's like from the beginning and then to the end, those big markers and milestones.
So, yeah. So I think that's just something for us to all think about in general. Well, let's not turn goals into idols and things to worship.
That's really good. And that's hard.
It is hard.
So
it is hard,
but definitely something to think about. Yeah.
So I think that for us, just being Christians and believers, the thing about it is we know that our hope is in Christ. We know that is the ultimate thing for us, but also just we're broken people, and being realistic about it, even knowing that truth, life still hurts.
Right.
Life is not how it's supposed to be. I think anybody can look at it and see that. And again, just putting it back on us when it comes to infertility, that's a plain example of it. Is life not happening how we wanted it to, and it's still being hard. Even though we have hope, it's hard. We've grown a lot, and we're in a good place. Like we said, we're in the adoption process. We're active and waiting. That means we could get a call right now while we're doing this podcast and have to shut it down.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
And it would. But it could also be 2 years from now. We don't know. But getting into the trying part, because that's what this episode is going to start with. How about, Emily, you share some of the things that we did, and if there's some moments to kind of break those things down and give insight. And like we said, spoiler alert, it didn't work for us, but it's not the methods and the tools. That's on us. So this could actually be helpful for somebody who is trying to conceive, whether you have infertility issues or not.
Yeah.
So why don't you kick us off with that list?
Yeah. And we know people that have tried these things and it has worked for.
Yes.
So they definitely work.
Just not for us.
Just not for us. No, they didn't work for us.
But that's okay.
That's okay. Right. Yeah. So one thing that I just want to say, almost like a little, I guess, disclaimer, or not disclaimer, but you want to go through some of the markers, see why it's difficult for you to conceive or what you need to kind of like hone in on. But for couples listening or women, men listening, like you shouldn't have to try for like a long time. You shouldn't even have to try. A lot of doctors will say, try for a year and then come see me. Like you shouldn't even have to try for a year. And sometimes when you're trying that long, that could be really hard on your marriage.
Yeah. And it doesn't, the caveat of that is it doesn't mean that like you're broken, but more so the point of that is, I mean, God created our bodies in a wonderful way. And just with the way that things work, not conceiving, within like a year can actually be signs of other things going on with your body that you might want to just check out.
Yeah.
And get some things in check and just get it in balance.
Yeah. Yeah. With these tips for trying to conceive, like you should get pregnant. Especially the final one that we're going to talk about.
No, but we're not making promises.
I'm just giving usually,
yeah.
Right. And usually, no, we're not making promises. Yeah. This is not medical advice.
We're just telling you what we did and what we know, not,
yes.
This ain't no contract. No. We just let you know. So
Tony's not trying to get sued.
Nope. This is not medical advice. This is not sponsored.
It's not sponsored.
This ain't, if we name a product, that's just what we had or what we did, not... Yeah.
Yep. So but that last one is a good one. So we'll get to it.
Yes.
All right. So the first thing that we did was really that I did, but Tony, thank God, was very involved. So ladies, get your husbands involved. But basically the first thing that I did was I had just a period tracker or an ovulation tracker. And they may be more advanced now, but then it was not the best because it was just taking, at least the one that we used was just taking an average of my cycle, and cycles can be different all the time. So that was good. I knew around when I was going to have my period each month, but the ovulation was way off. So first things, we were probably having sex at the wrong time because it was just a guess. But then the next thing that we did was a basal body temperature. So basically, when you ovulate, progesterone will rise in the body. And when progesterone rises, your body is going to like heat up a little bit more. And so it'll increase by about like a half a degree to a degree. Kind of think of progesterone as your baby's first incubator. So when you ovulate, it'll rise. So basically what I did, there's a thermometer that is specifically a basal body temperature thermometer. You can get it anywhere. And first thing in the morning when you wake up, I would just check my temperature. You can take it orally, vaginally, in your armpit, anywhere, but just make sure it's the same place every time. So that was kind of interesting because I don't like to get up in the morning. Nope. And so this was the first like kind of frustration I think that we really had with each other in this trying to conceive was that my alarm would go off. All right, got to just keep your thermometer at the bedside. And I would just roll over and go back to sleep. And Tony's like, Emily, check your temperature, So this would happen a lot, right? I'm sure you.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, you remember. Yeah. So that was kind of frustrating because I just wanted to go back to sleep. And Tony, for people that know or don't know Tony, he's a rule follower. And so if he says he's going to do it, he's going to do it all the way through. So me rolling over and going back to sleep was very frustrating. So,
but also with that though,
yeah.
So really, like you said, the benefit of using that is because like tell somebody what they should do what should they be looking for and how do they respond to, like if it was ideal in a perfect scenario, how would that help them?
Yeah. So if you're tracking your cycle, so you still need a tracking app. And so you would record your temperature every single morning before you get moving. So temperature should be, everyone's different, so I don't want to say exactly,
Yeah,
but
don't do that.
Yeah, maybe around like 97. And then once you ovulate, it's going to go up to around 98.
So if you wake up in the morning and you see that, then that's letting you know, oh, like I'm probably ovulating.
Yes.
Okay.
The only issue is that if you're not like extremely consistent, or little things can change it. Like if you've had too much alcohol to drink, if you're under a lot of stress, things can start to shift it. So it is a good tool, but I will not say it's like the best tool.
Yeah. So then what's next on the list?
So the next thing is going to be ovulation test strips. They're also known as LH test strips. Those can actually be taken anytime. Those are really good. You want to get them like in bulk, because they'll sell them in the stores, but you'll get like 3 in a pack and it'll be like $12, when you can go on Amazon and get like 100 of them, because you need to check like all the time. But basically, your luteinizing hormone will rise once you've ovulated. So it looks like a pregnancy test. So you're going to get like 2 maybe blue lines on it when your luteinizing hormone goes up. Basically, right when you've ovulated, that's going to go up. The problem is with this one is that people don't check it all day, every day. They might check it once a day, and you can check it, maybe you check it at night and it's positive, but if you ovulated in the morning and you missed it that whole day, your body then can like be like, all right, we're not conceiving now because it's too late. So you would have to be very regular about doing the test strips.
Yeah. So probably where people go wrong is that if you're paying attention and waiting on that, really that test is more of a reaction to something that has already happened. So you could be too late.
Yeah. And that's the issue with the like basal body temperature and the test strips, is a lot of times people miss it. So with us, it's like we would see those things. We're like, oh, okay, a positive test. This means like we need to have sex now. Or our temperature, or my temperature rose. Oh, we need to have sex now. But that could have happened like hours ago. That could have happened a day ago. Yeah, up to like 24 hours ago. And so you miss it. And so a lot of people are like, they're spending all this money on these tests or whatever, and, just having sex at the wrong time. And it could be totally like nothing wrong with your body at all. But if you've already ovulated, it might be a little too late. So the next thing is, kind of hit on this a little bit the other day, is the herbs that I took. Some of the main ones is that I took a prenatal vitamin. The brand was called Oxalent. That was really good. I took maca. Maca is really good. This was in a capsule form. Some people will take it, like put it in their smoothies and stuff, but the brand was Feminescence, if I'm saying that right, from Maca Harmony. That was really good because maca is like incredible. There's so many good things with maca, but basically balancing hormones. Men can even take it, so it can increase sperm count and like the what is it? Motility. I don't want to say it wrong, but basically the way your sperm swim and the count. It's been known to help with that. And on a good note, it can help with libido too. So since you're having to have a lot of sex, it's nice to help with that too. Also known to improve energy. And it's cool, like in the capsule form, specifically with this brand, it is like 10 times more concentrated than just taking like a regular powder maca. So that's really good. Like I said, for men and women. I also took Curamed, which had dim in it, which is almost like curcumin. And then it basically, that is to balance estrogen. And it's basically stuff that's found in like vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower and stuff like that. So it's just a really concentrated form of it. I also took Vitex Berry, which is supposed to increase fertility and then decrease PMS symptoms. So for people that are having issues with like long PMS symptoms, that's really good too. So those were the main things. Oh, and then progesterone. So I took progesterone, which we'll explain later that there are specific times really that you need to take progesterone, but I was just taking it like throughout my whole cycle. So those things actually really helped balance my cycle, and it regulated my cycle.
And the last thing that we did for both of us, or the last thing to kind of talk about when we were trying, is we both went to the doctor.
Yeah. And that was after about a year of kind of trying it on our own. So I went to 3 different doctors. The first one did a vaginal ultrasound, ended up diagnosing me with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which could mean a number of different things. But the main thing was that I had a lot of cysts on my ovaries, which can make it really difficult for conceiving a child. But unfortunately, she didn't know much after that. She just basically told me, don't gain weight and eat healthy, but not like any specific things, no medication. So that was just, I was like, okay, I think it's time to find somebody else. And even a side note with that is sometimes there are really kind doctors that just don't know about certain things. And it can be hard to like advocate for yourself and, go to the next doctor, but there is time for that.
Which I guess what that translates to, maybe you've seen the same doctor for the last 10, 15 years. And then you've kind of moved to this other stage of life, and they might not really know the best way to help you.
Yeah. And it was hard to leave, though, because she was so kind and loving, and I felt safe with her. And that's a big thing when you're having like yearly exams and stuff like that in very vulnerable positions. So I felt very comfortable, but it kind of was time to move to the next one. So I ended up going to another doctor that wanted to get me started on Clomid. That was horrible. I hated, I didn't hate her, but I hated the visit was horrible. She did like a vaginal exam, like cursing the whole time. It was kind of traumatic. And so I kind of just blocked that out and I left and I was like, I'm never going back. So even if maybe that could have been like a helpful doctor, maybe she knew Clomid was the best thing, I was just like, after we talked about it, it was like, no, we're not doing this. And then came the best doctor ever. And no, we don't have a kid, but he was amazing. And this was a man, so I know that this can be, that can be hard. Maybe maybe some women would not go to him because he's a man, but he loved Jesus, and that was like number one. But he sat with me and Tony, and he talked to us for what, like over an hour?
Yeah. And I guess you saying that just the importance of doing stuff together. So I wasn't present for any of the other appointments Emily went to, but when we took the next step to go to somebody specifically, which, we started venturing outside of just where we live and traveling to somebody, we went together.
Yes.
So I was at this first appointment with this doctor, and it was nice because he spent an hour out of his time talking to us and asked, just trying to get more information about us and trying to educate us, trying to really find out what was the best way that he could help us. So that was very find somebody like that, but also as much as you can do stuff together as a couple so that you're both getting the information and getting equipped.
Yeah. So he he had me do hormone testing, which is just crazy that I had to go to 3 doctors before I could get hormone testing. But he did it, and it was a multi-day test. So I had to get blood work at certain points in my cycle to see where estrogen was at, progesterone, and androgen levels, which would be similar to testosterone. And so I did that. And they realized that androgen levels were a little high, and then I believe progesterone was a little bit low. So then he put me on progesterone, but very specific. So it was post-ovulation, the next 3 days I took it. I said that wrong. The next 12 days, I believe, that I took it. And that would just raise that heat, the progesterone, the heat in my body, which helps the baby, if you do conceive, to stick. And so that was really helpful. He also had me do an HSG test, which checks to see if your fallopian tubes are open. That's a very painful test, but he was there. He talked me through it. It is vaginally done. They basically put dye inside of your ovaries and your fallopian tubes, and they take pictures to see if the fallopian tubes are open and everything is clear. That did come out normal. So all that to say, he walked beside us, and it was completely different than other doctors I had experienced. So then the other thing that he talked about was something called the Creighton model. And we'll speak on that more in probably in a side video that we're going to post. But a little just overview of that is this was the key thing that really we figured out. I can't even say what the problem was, but we knew at that point we may not be able to kind of conceive. But basically, you check your cervical fluid at a certain point, and that is like very key to telling you when you are going to ovulate. So instead of seeing things later on and trying to figure out, if it's too late, like I already ovulated and then things happening after, it's like you start to see cervical fluid, you're going to ovulate. So it's like more preemptive. And that was pretty much everything on my end.
Yeah. Well, I guess more on the Creighton model thing, because we're not trying to like, you got to go and watch this video.
Yeah.
More so, that whole fluid thing, we're trying to spare people.
Cervical fluid?
Yeah. For if you don't want to hear all of that.
Yeah.
We're trying to put it in another video. So
graphic.
I mean, it's not, well, yeah, it's just, everybody might not want to hear all that, but, that's why we're putting in another, video specifically about that. So if you don't see that soon, keep bugging us about it in the comments or shoot an email and we'll make sure to do that. But the other thing about the Creighton model that was cool is that it really is like a fertility counseling, and it's all natural. It's not about taking anything. It's more so like awareness of your body. So really, in order to do it, you find a counselor that specializes in the Creighton model, and you set up a time. Both people have to go to the counseling sessions, and they give you like a book, a pamphlet, and stickers, and they show you how to chart. And really, it kind of combines a few of the things that Emily was talking about, and to put it on this chart. And you're supposed to be able to look at this and know like when the best time to try or any of that stuff is. And it actually really was helpful.
It was very helpful.
And it's something that, I mean, I didn't know anything about it until we were told about it. But that's just kind of a side note on that.
And it really helps you to know what's happening at what point in your cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's a whole bunch of stuff, but really doing all of that helped us to realize that, okay, we need to be going and talking to people. We need to consult with people, because we had data and timelines to show what was going on, what wasn't going on. And it was really a good tool to, one, show us that, yes, something is off and we need to go and talk to somebody. Hey, this is Tony from the future. At the conclusion of this episode, we realized it started to get a little long, so we decided to break this up into a part 2. So stay tuned and watch for this to be posted.